turn around. Hands behind your back.
Officer, what are you doing? I paid for the water.
You're being arrested for theft and disorderly conduct.
This is insane. I'm a staff sergeant in the United States
I don't
Army.
care if you're the president. You're going to jail.
You're making a huge mistake.
This is the moment that destroyed a career. June 14th, 2025, a Saturday afternoon in Riverside, Ohio. What should have been a simple transaction, a decorated war hero buying a $2 bottle of water, turned into a nightmare that would expose systemic failures, end a police career, and spark a national conversation about respect, authority, and accountability. Officer Derek Brennan had no idea that the man he was about to humiliate and arrest had served 3 tours in Afghanistan. He didn't know that this veteran had saved lives under enemy fire, earned a Bronze Star, and dedicated 15 years to protecting American freedoms. All he saw was an opportunity to flex his authority. What happened next would be captured on body camera footage that went viral within 48 hours, reaching over 40 million views. The aftermath? A terminated officer, a 6-figure lawsuit, and policy changes that would ripple through police departments across the country. This is the true story of how a $2 bottle of water cost a cop everything. Before we continue, I want to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your country or city in the comments right now. Are you from the USA, UK, Canada, or somewhere else? Let me know in the comment. And if you think accountability matters, hit that like button. Marcus Reed wasn't just any customer who walked into that convenience store. He was a 37-year-old staff sergeant in the United States Army, currently stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, but visiting his elderly mother in Riverside, Ohio for Father's Day weekend. His military record read like something out of a Hollywood script: 3 combat deployments to Afghanistan between 2011 and 2023. Bronze Star recipient for valor in combat after pulling 2 wounded soldiers from a burning vehicle while under direct enemy fire. Army Commendation Medal, Combat Action Badge, 15 years of dedicated service to his country. But Marcus was more than just his medals. He grew up in Riverside, a small industrial town of about 18,000 people. His mother, Dorothy Reed, 68, had raised him and his 2 younger sisters as a single parent after his father died in a factory accident when Marcus was just 12 years old. Dorothy worked double shifts at the local hospital to keep food on the table and send her children to college. Marcus joined the Army at 22, not because he had no other options, but because he wanted to serve. He wanted to make his mother proud. He wanted to protect the freedoms that his family held dear. His Army buddies described him as calm under pressure, respectful to everyone regardless of rank, and someone who always followed the rules. His commanding officers had written glowing performance reviews year after year. Marcus was being considered for promotion to Sergeant First Class. On June 14, 2025, Marcus was on leave. He'd driven 6 hours from Fort Campbell to surprise his mother for Father's Day weekend. That Saturday afternoon, he stopped at Riverside Quick Mart, a small convenience store 3 blocks from his mother's house, to grab a cold bottle of water. The temperature was 87 degrees. He was wearing a gray Army t-shirt, jeans, and a baseball cap. He had no idea that this simple errand would change his life forever. Officer Derek Brennan, 34 years old, had been with the Riverside Police Department for 9 years. He graduated from the police academy in 2016 and had been assigned to patrol duty in the town's downtown district. On the surface, Brennan appeared to be a by-the-book officer. He'd made dozens of arrests, responded to countless calls, and had never been involved in a fatal shooting. But beneath that surface, there was a troubling pattern. Internal records, which would later be revealed during the investigation, showed that Brennan had been the subject of 12 civilian complaints over his 9-year career. 12 complaints about aggressive behavior, unnecessary use of force, and disrespectful treatment of citizens. Most of these complaints had been dismissed or resulted in minimal discipline. A written warning here, a 1-day suspension there. 3 of those complaints specifically involved allegations of racial profiling. In 2019, A black business owner complained that Brennan had demanded to see his ID while he was unlocking his own store at 6 a.m. In 2021, a black teenager reported that Brennan had searched his backpack without cause while he was walking home from school. In 2023, a black nurse filed a complaint after Brennan pulled her over for driving suspiciously in her own neighborhood. None of these complaints had resulted in serious consequences. Brennan's colleagues had mixed opinions about him. Some described him as intense and someone who takes the job seriously. Others privately admitted he had an attitude problem and didn't know when to back down. One former partner had requested a reassignment after working with Brennan for just 3 months, citing incompatible work styles. His supervisors had noted in performance reviews that Brennan needed to work on de-escalation techniques and improve community relations, but he'd never been required to take additional training or been placed on probation. On June 14, 2025, Officer Derek Brennan was working the afternoon shift patrolling Riverside's small downtown area. He was 45 minutes away from the end of his shift when he received a call that would end his career. I have a question for you. Do you think officers should face consequences for illegal stops? Or should they get away with it? Comment below with your thoughts. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we bring you real stories of justice and accountability every single week. June 14th, 2025, 3:47 p.m. Marcus Reed walked into Riverside Quick Mart with one simple goal: buy a bottle of water and get back to his mother's house. The store was small, locally owned, with 3 aisles of basic groceries and supplies. Behind the counter was 22-year-old Jenna Martinez, a college student working her summer job. Marcus grabbed a bottle of water from the refrigerated section. The price sticker read $1.99. He approached the counter and pulled out his wallet. This is where things started to go wrong. Marcus handed Jenna a $20 bill. She rang up the water, and the register showed $2.14 with tax. But when she went to give Marcus his change, the cash register drawer jammed, a mechanical issue that had been plaguing the old register for weeks. "I'm so sorry," Jenna said, pulling at the drawer. "This thing keeps sticking. Give me just a second." "No problem," Marcus replied, patient and calm. Jenna struggled with the drawer for about 30 seconds, then called to the back room. "Mr. Patel, the register's stuck again." Ramesh Patel, 56, the store owner, came from the back office. He'd been dealing with this register issue for a month and kept meaning to get it fixed. He apologized to Marcus and began working on the drawer. Marcus stood there, completely relaxed, scrolling through his phone while he waited. After about 2 minutes of struggling, Mr. Patel finally got the drawer open and counted out Marcus's change, $17.86. He handed it to Marcus with another apology. "Really sorry about that. This register is driving me crazy." "All good," Marcus said with a smile. He pocketed the change, grabbed his water, and headed toward the door. That's when everything fell apart. At 3:52 p.m., another customer walked into the store, a middle-aged white woman named Patricia Holbrook. She'd been standing outside on her phone and had observed the interaction through the window, but she hadn't heard the conversation or understood what was happening. All Patricia saw was a black man in casual clothes standing at the counter for several minutes, what appeared to be some kind of dispute or delay, and then the man leaving with merchandise. Patricia's mind jumped to a conclusion. She immediately pulled out her phone and dialed 911. "I think I just witnessed a theft at Riverside Quick Mart," she told the dispatcher. "A black male, maybe 30s, gray shirt, just took something without paying. He's walking north on Elm Street right now." The dispatcher logged the call and sent it out. "Possible theft in progress. Suspect fleeing northbound on Elm Street from Quick Mart." Officer Derek Brennan was 2 blocks away. He heard the call and responded immediately. At 3:54 p.m., Brennan spotted Marcus walking casually down Elm Street, bottle of water in hand, about half a block from the store. Brennan activated his body camera. Department policy required all citizen interactions to be recorded, and pulled his cruiser up beside Marcus. The body camera captured everything that happened next. "Hey, stop right there!" Brennan shouted through his open window. Marcus turned, confused. He'd done nothing wrong. He'd paid for his water. He was literally just walking to his mom's house. "Me?" Marcus asked, pointing to himself. "Yeah, you! Come here!" Brennan's tone was already aggressive, already confrontational. Marcus walked over to the police cruiser, still holding his water. "What's going on, officer?" Brennan stepped out of his vehicle. "I got a report of a theft at the convenience store. You just came from there, didn't you?" "Yeah, I bought this water. I paid for it." Marcus remained calm, his military training kicking in. He knew how to de-escalate tense situations. "You have a receipt?" Brennan demanded. Marcus paused. "No, I didn't ask for one. It was just $2. "Uh-huh." Brennan's skepticism was obvious in his voice. "So you expect me to just believe you?" "Officer, I paid for this. There was an issue with the register drawer getting stuck, but the owner gave me my change. You can go ask them." This was the moment, the critical moment, where Brennan should have simply walked into the store and verified Marcus's story. It would have taken 60 seconds. The store was right there, but Brennan didn't do that. "Why don't you empty your pockets for me?" Brennan said instead. Marcus's expression shifted from confusion to frustration. "Why? I didn't do anything wrong." "Because I'm telling you to. Empty your pockets now." This was an illegal search. Brennan had no probable cause, no reasonable suspicion beyond a vague 911 call. Marcus hadn't committed any crime. Under the Fourth Amendment, Brennan had no right to search him. "Officer, with all due respect, I don't consent to a search. I paid for this water. If you don't believe me, go into the store and ask." That's when Brennan's demeanor shifted from suspicious to hostile. "Oh, so now you're a lawyer? You know your rights?" Brennan stepped closer, invading Marcus's personal space. "Let me tell you something. I don't need your consent. I've got a theft report, and you're the suspect." "I'm not a suspect. I'm a customer who paid for—" "Turn around." Marcus's eyes widened. "What?" "Turn around, hands behind your back." "Officer, what are you doing? I paid for the water." "You're being arrested for theft and disorderly conduct." This was the exchange captured in the opening body cam dialogue, and this was where Marcus made a critical decision. He could have resisted. He could have argued more forcefully. But his military training had taught him something important. De-escalate, comply, survive, and fight the legal battle later. "This is insane. I'm a staff sergeant in the United States Army." "I don't care if you're the president. You're going to jail." Brennan grabbed Marcus's arm and twisted it behind his back, hard enough to cause pain. Marcus didn't resist, but he continued to speak. "You're making a huge mistake." "Yeah, we'll see about that," Brennan muttered as he slapped handcuffs on Marcus's wrists, tightening them more than necessary. The body camera captured everything. Marcus's calm demeanor, his repeated statements that he'd paid for the water, his identification as a military service member, and Brennan's refusal to verify the story before making an arrest. At 3:58 p.m., Brennan walked Marcus back to his cruiser and placed him in the back seat. Only then, after Marcus was already in custody, did Brennan decide to walk into the Quick Mart to investigate. Inside the store, Jenna Martinez and Ramesh Patel were shocked to see the officer. "Can I help you?" Mr. Patel asked. "Did you just have a customer in here? Black guy, gray shirt?" "Oh, yes, he bought a bottle of water. Is something wrong?" Brennan's expression didn't change. "He paid for it?" "Of course he paid for it," Jenna interjected. "He gave me a 20 and we gave him his change. The register got stuck, but we figured it out. Why?" Brennan stood there for a moment, the reality sinking in. He'd just arrested an innocent man. Not just any innocent man, a United States Army staff sergeant. But instead of admitting his mistake, instead of immediately releasing Marcus and apologizing, Brennan made it worse. "Well, I got a call about a theft, so I had to check it out," he said defensively. "There was no theft," Mr. Patel said, his voice rising. "That man paid for his water. Why would someone call about a theft when there wasn't one?" Brennan didn't answer. He walked out of the store and returned to his cruiser. Marcus was sitting in the back seat, still handcuffed, visible frustration on his face. The body camera was still recording. "So," Marcus asked, "did they tell you I paid?" Brennan hesitated. This was his moment to make it right. Unlock the handcuffs, apologize, let the man go. Instead, he said, "I'm still going to need to take you in and verify your information." "Are you serious right now?" "Department policy." It wasn't department policy. Brennan was lying to cover his mistake. At 4:03 p.m., Officer Derek Brennan drove Staff Sergeant Marcus Reed to the Riverside Police Department headquarters and processed him for theft and disorderly conduct, charges that had absolutely no legal basis. Pause for a second. If you believe body cameras save lives and expose the truth, smash that like button right now. Also, comment justice if you think this officer got what he deserved. I read every single comment and I want to hear your opinion. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Marcus Reed sat in the holding cell at Riverside Police Department headquarters, still in disbelief. He'd been fingerprinted, photographed, and had his personal belongings confiscated, all because of a $2 bottle of water that he'd paid for. But Marcus was a soldier. He'd been in far worse situations. He remained calm and started thinking strategically. At 4:15 p.m., Marcus was allowed his one phone call. He didn't call his mother. He didn't want to worry her. Instead, he called someone he knew could help, Captain Richard Torres, his commanding officer at Fort Campbell. "Captain Torres," the voice answered. "Sir, this is Staff Sergeant Reed. I'm in a situation and I need your help." Marcus explained everything: the water purchase, the stuck register, the false 911 call, Officer Brennan's refusal to verify his story, and the illegal arrest. Captain Torres listened without interrupting, and when Marcus finished, there was a long pause. "Marcus, sit tight. Don't say anything else to anyone. I'm making some calls right now." Captain Torres wasn't just any commanding officer. He was a 25-year Army veteran with connection throughout the military and federal law enforcement, and he was fiercely protective of his soldiers. Within minutes, Captain Torres had contacted the Fort Campbell Legal Assistance Office, the Army's congressional liaison, and, most importantly, the FBI's Cincinnati Field Office. Why the FBI? Because when a military service member is wrongfully arrested by local law enforcement, especially when there are potential civil rights violations involved, it becomes a federal matter. And Captain Torres suspected this was exactly that kind of case. At 4:47 p.m., Riverside Police Department received a phone call that changed everything. The call came from Special Agent Linda Chen of the FBI's Civil Rights Division. She informed the Riverside Police Chief, Michael Patterson, that the Bureau had been notified of a potential civil rights violation involving the detention of a United States Army staff sergeant. She requested immediate access to the body camera footage and demanded that Marcus Reed be released immediately unless there was probable cause for his arrest. Chief Patterson, who had been completely unaware of the situation until that moment, immediately pulled Officer Brennan's body camera footage and began watching. What he saw made his blood run cold. At 5:03 p.m., Chief Patterson personally walked down to the holding cells and unlocked Marcus Reed's cell. "Staff Sergeant Reed, I'm Chief Patterson. I've reviewed the body camera footage, and I owe you an apology. This arrest should never have happened. You're being released immediately, and all charges are being dropped." Marcus stood up, his jaw tight. "All charges are being dropped? Chief, there should never have been any charges in the first place." "You're absolutely right. I'm deeply sorry for what happened to you today. Where's Officer Brennan? Chief Patterson hesitated. He's been suspended, pending an investigation. Suspended? He violated my rights. He arrested me without probable cause. He refused to verify my story, even when the store was right there. He lied about department policy to keep me in custody after he knew I was innocent. I understand your frustration. Frustration? Marcus's voice rose for the first time. Chief, I've spent 15 years defending this country. I've dodged bullets in Afghanistan. I've pulled wounded soldiers out of enemy fire. And I come home, try to buy a bottle of water in my own hometown, and I get treated like a criminal. Not because I did anything wrong, but because someone saw a black man in casual clothes and assumed the worst. Chief Patterson had no response. He knew Marcus was right. Marcus was released at 5:21 p.m., over an hour after his illegal arrest. His belongings were returned, including his military ID, his wallet with $234 in cash, his phone, and that bottle of water, still unopened. As Marcus walked out of the police station, he was met by Captain Torres, who had driven the 6 hours from Fort Campbell the moment he hung up the phone. Also waiting were 2 FBI agents, Special Agent Linda Chen and Special Agent Marcus Webb. Staff Sergeant Reed, I'm Special Agent Chen. We'd like to talk to you about what happened today. And that's when Marcus Reed realized this was bigger than just a bad arrest. This was about systemic accountability. Meanwhile, inside the police station, Officer Derek Brennan sat in Chief Patterson's office, watching his career evaporate in real time. Derek, what the hell were you thinking? Chief Patterson's voice was a mixture of anger and disappointment. I received a 911 call about a theft, and instead of spending 60 seconds walking into the store to verify, you arrested a United States Army staff sergeant without probable cause. I was following procedure. You were following your ego. Chief Patterson slammed his hand on the desk. I've reviewed your entire file, Derek. 12 complaints in 9 years. 12. And I've been too lenient, hoping you'd improve. But this is indefensible. Brennan's face went pale. Chief, I can fix this. Fix it? The FBI is involved, Derek. The FBI. Do you understand what that means? The color drained from Brennan's face. In that moment, he realized his career was over. As of right now, you're suspended without pay, pending the completion of internal and federal investigations. You'll surrender your badge, your weapon, and your department-issued equipment. You're not to contact Staff Sergeant Reed or anyone involved in this case. Do you understand? Brennan nodded, numb. And Derek, start looking for a lawyer. You're going to need one. Investigation and evidence. The investigation into Officer Derek Brennan's actions began immediately, and it moved with a speed that surprised even seasoned law enforcement observers. There were 2 parallel investigations, an internal affairs investigation by the Riverside Police Department and a civil rights investigation by the FBI. The internal affairs investigation, Chief Patterson assigned Lieutenant Sarah Hernandez, a 16-year veteran and the department's most respected investigator, to lead the internal review. Her task was to determine whether Brennan violated department policies and procedures. Lieutenant Hernandez began by examining every second of the body camera footage. The evidence was damning. 3:54 p.m. Brennan initiated contact with Marcus based solely on a vague 911 call, with no independent reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. 3:56 p.m. Brennan demanded a search without legal justification, violating the Fourth Amendment and department policy requiring probable cause for searches. 3:57 p.m. When Marcus identified himself as a military service member, Brennan dismissed this information instead of taking it into consideration. 3:58 p.m. Brennan arrested Marcus without attempting to verify his story, despite the store being less than 50 yards away. 4:01 p.m. After confirming that Marcus had paid for the water, Brennan still transported him to headquarters instead of releasing him. 4:03 p.m. Brennan falsely claimed it was department policy to process Marcus after knowing he was innocent. Every single one of these actions violated department policy. But Lieutenant Hernandez didn't stop there. She interviewed every witness. Jenna Martinez testified that Marcus had paid for the water and that the only issue was the stuck register drawer. She stated that Brennan never asked detailed questions about the transaction. Ramesh Patel confirmed Jenna's account and added that Brennan seemed defensive and unwilling to admit he'd made a mistake. Patricia Holbrook, the woman who called 911, was interviewed and admitted she hadn't actually witnessed a theft. "I just saw what I thought looked suspicious," she said. "I didn't hear any conversation. I assumed something was wrong." This admission was critical. It proved that Brennan had acted on an assumption, not evidence. Lieutenant Hernandez also reviewed Brennan's history, all 12 civilian complaints, with special attention to the 3 involving racial profiling allegations. She interviewed officers who had worked with Brennan, and several admitted they'd witnessed his aggressive behavior but never officially reported it. One officer, speaking on condition of anonymity, said, "Derek always had a chip on his shoulder. He treated certain people differently, especially black men. We all knew it, but nobody wanted to be the one to say it officially." After 2 weeks of intensive investigation, Lieutenant Hernandez submitted her 47-page report to Chief Patterson. The conclusion was unequivocal. Officer Derek Brennan violated multiple department policies, including improper detention, illegal search, failure to verify information, false arrest, and conduct unbecoming an officer. The evidence suggests a pattern of behavior that demonstrates unfitness for duty. Recommendation: immediate termination. The FBI investigation. While the internal investigation focused on policy violations, the FBI investigation examined potential federal crimes, specifically deprivation of civil rights under color of law, a violation of Title 18 U.S.C. Section 242.
Special Agent Linda Chen led a team of 3 agents in reviewing the case. Their investigation was even more thorough than internal affairs. The FBI analyzed complete body camera footage with audio forensic enhancement, Brennan's personnel file and complaint history, Riverside PD's policies on arrests, searches, and de-escalation, statistical data on Brennan's arrest patterns compared to other officers. The statistical analysis was particularly revealing. FBI analysts found that over his 9-year career, Officer Brennan had arrested black individuals at a rate 3.2 times higher than his peers, even when controlling for patrol area and shift assignments. In incidents where arrests were later dropped or dismissed, black individuals represented 73% of Brennan's cases, compared to 31% department-wide. This wasn't just a single bad decision, this was a pattern. Special Agent Chen also interviewed Marcus Reed extensively. Marcus provided a detailed account of the incident, and his credibility was unimpeachable. His military record, his commanding officer's testimony, and his calm demeanor throughout the ordeal all supported his version of events. The FBI also discovered something else. Brennan had attended 2 mandatory training sessions on de-escalation and implicit bias in the past 3 years. He'd signed documents acknowledging he understood proper procedures for detention and search. This proved he knew the correct protocols. He simply chose not to follow them. On July 8, 2025, just 3 weeks after the incident, Special Agent Chen met with Chief Patterson and the Riverside City Attorney to present the FBI's findings. "Our investigation has found sufficient evidence to support federal civil rights charges," Agent Chen stated. "However, we're willing to defer to local accountability measures if the department takes appropriate action. We want to see real consequences, not just a slap on the wrist." Chief Patterson assured her that consequences were coming.
Media coverage and public reaction. While the investigations were underway, the story exploded in the media. On June 17th, 3 days after the incident, a local news outlet obtained the body camera footage through a public records request. The video was posted online and went viral within hours. The headline read, "Decorated Army Veteran Arrested Over $2 Water Purchase. Body cam shows officer ignored proof of innocence." The footage spread across social media platforms: Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Millions of people watched Officer Brennan handcuff Marcus Reed despite his calm explanations, his military service, and the easily verifiable truth. The public reaction was swift and furious. This is exactly why we need police reform. Imagine serving your country and being treated like this in your own hometown. That officer didn't care about the truth. He just wanted to assert his authority. How many times has this happened to people who weren't veterans, who don't have commanding officers who can call the FBI? National news outlets picked up the story. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News all ran segments about the case. Military advocacy groups issued statements condemning the arrest. Veterans organizations demanded accountability. The Riverside Police Department's Facebook page was flooded with thousands of comments demanding Brennan's termination. Peaceful protests were organized outside the police headquarters, with veterans in uniform standing alongside Black community members holding signs that read, "Respect service, demand accountability," and "Justice for Marcus Reed." The pressure on Chief Patterson and the Riverside City government was immense. On July 15, 2025, exactly 1 month after the incident, Chief Michael Patterson held a press conference at Riverside City Hall. The room was packed with reporters, community members, and veterans who had traveled to show support for Marcus Reed. Chief Patterson stepped to the podium and the room fell silent. On June 14, 2025, Officer Derek Brennan conducted a traffic stop that resulted in the unlawful arrest of Staff Sergeant Marcus Reed, a decorated United States Army veteran. After a thorough internal investigation and consultation with the FBI's Civil Rights Division, I am announcing the following actions. Effective immediately, Officer Derek Brennan is terminated from the Riverside Police Department. His law enforcement certification is being revoked, and I am recommending that he never be allowed to serve as a police officer again in any jurisdiction. The investigation found that Officer Brennan violated numerous department policies, ignored proper procedures, and demonstrated a pattern of behavior inconsistent with the values of this department. His actions brought shame to this department and dishonor to every officer who serves with integrity. To Staff Sergeant Reed, on behalf of the Riverside Police Department, I apologize. You deserved better. You deserved respect, and you deserved the benefit of the doubt that Officer Brennan refused to give you. Thank you for your service to our nation, and I am deeply sorry for what happened to you in your own hometown. The room erupted in applause. But the consequences for Brennan didn't stop there. On August 3, 2025, the Ohio Attorney General's office announced that Officer Derek Brennan was being charged with 3 misdemeanor counts: unlawful restraint, illegally detaining Marcus Reed without probable cause, official misconduct, knowingly failing to perform a duty imposed by law, verification of the theft claim, false arrest, arresting someone without legal justification. Each charge carried a maximum penalty of 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine. Brennan hired a defense attorney, David Kowalski, who attempted to argue that Brennan was simply following up on a 911 call and had qualified immunity. But the body camera evidence was too powerful. Brennan's own words, "I don't care if you're the president, you're going to jail," demonstrated willful disregard for truth and justice. On October 12, 2025, facing overwhelming evidence, Derek Brennan accepted a plea agreement. He pleaded guilty to official misconduct and received 180 days in county jail, suspended to 60 days with work release, 2 years of probation, $5,000 in fines, mandatory community service, 200 hours at a veterans center, permanent prohibition from working in law enforcement anywhere in the United States. Brennan also lost his pension eligibility. 9 years of service erased. His career was over. His reputation was destroyed. and his name would forever be associated with one of the most egregious examples of police abuse of power caught on camera. Marcus Reed's vindication. While Brennan faced criminal charges, Marcus Reed pursued civil justice. On July 29, 2025, Marcus filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against Officer Derek Brennan, the Riverside Police Department, and the City of Riverside. The lawsuit alleged unlawful arrest and false imprisonment, violation of Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable search and seizure, equal protection violations, racial profiling, assault and battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, municipal liability for failure to properly train and supervise Officer Brennan. Marcus retained attorney Elizabeth Morgan, a prominent civil rights lawyer from Cleveland with a track record of winning cases against police departments. The lawsuit detailed not just the June 14th incident, but also the pattern of complaints against Brennan that the department had failed to address. It argued that the city was liable because it had notice of Brennan's misconduct and did nothing meaningful to correct it. In the lawsuit, Marcus described the impact of the arrest. "I have served my country with honor for 15 years. I have faced enemy fire to protect American freedoms. But on June 14, 2025, in my own hometown, I was treated like a criminal for the color of my skin. I was humiliated, handcuffed, and jailed. Not because I committed a crime, but because an officer refused to see me as a human being worthy of basic respect. The emotional trauma of this experience has affected my trust in the institutions I've sworn to protect." The City of Riverside's attorneys knew they had an indefensible case. The body camera footage eliminated any possibility of disputing the facts. Marcus was a sympathetic plaintiff, a decorated war hero with an impeccable record. And the department's failure to discipline Brennan for previous complaints demonstrated deliberate indifference. On November 18, 2025, just 5 months after the incident, the City of Riverside agreed to settle the lawsuit to avoid a trial. The settlement terms? $875,000 paid to Marcus Reed, one of the largest civil rights settlements in Riverside County history. Full public apology from the City of Riverside and the Police Department. Agreement to implement comprehensive policy reforms, detailed below. Mandatory retraining for all officers on civil rights, de-escalation, and implicit bias. At a press conference announcing the settlement, Marcus spoke publicly for the first time since the incident. "This was never about the money. This was about accountability. This was about making sure that what happened to me doesn't happen to someone else. Someone who might not have a commanding officer to call. Someone who might not have the resources to fight back. Every person in this country deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of the color of their skin or what they're wearing. I hope this case serves as a reminder that no one is above the law, not even those sworn to enforce it." The $875,000 settlement was paid by the city's insurance carrier. Marcus donated $100,000 of the settlement to a scholarship fund for children of fallen soldiers in his hometown. Perhaps the most important outcome of the case was the systemic change it sparked. As part of the settlement agreement, the City of Riverside committed to implementing 12 specific policy reforms. 1. Mandatory body camera policy. All officers must activate body cameras during every citizen interaction, with severe penalties for failure to record. 2. Verification protocol. Officers must verify theft claims with store owners, witnesses, before making arrests in retail theft cases. 3. De-escalation first. Officers must attempt verbal de-escalation before escalating to physical detention unless there is an immediate threat to safety. 4. Supervisor review. All arrests must be reviewed by a supervisor within 2 hours, with immediate release if probable cause is not established. 5. Early intervention system. Officers with 3 or more complaints within a 12-month period must undergo mandatory retraining and psychological evaluation. 6. Complaint transparency. All civilian complaints and their outcomes must be publicly available online with privacy redactions. 7. Independent oversight. Creation of a civilian review board with subpoena power to investigate complaints of police misconduct. 8. Implicit bias training. Mandatory annual training on implicit bias, racial profiling, and respectful engagement with diverse communities. 9. Military Liaison Program. Designated officers trained to work with military service members and veterans in the community. 10. Disciplinary Matrix. Clear, published guidelines for disciplinary actions based on the severity of policy violations. 11. Quarterly reporting. Public reports on use of force incidents, complaints, and demographic data on arrests and stops. 12. Community forums. Quarterly town halls where community members can dialogue with police leadership. These reforms were hailed by civil rights advocates as a model for other departments, but the impact went beyond Riverside. The case caught the attention of Ohio state legislators. In March 2026, the Ohio House of Representatives passed the Marcus Reed Police Accountability Act, which mandated statewide database of officers terminated or disciplined for misconduct, prohibition on rehiring officers fired for civil rights violations, mandatory body cameras for all police departments receiving state funding, annual civil rights training for all law enforcement officers. The bill was signed into law by the governor on April 8, 2026. Marcus Reed was invited to the signing ceremony. He stood behind the governor as the pen touched paper, and the room erupted in applause. Where are they now? Marcus Reed continues to serve in the United States Army. He was promoted to Sergeant First Class in January 2026 and is currently serving as a senior instructor at Fort Campbell, training the next generation of soldiers. He's become an advocate for police reform and has spoken at multiple veterans organizations about his experience. He remains close with his mother, Dorothy, and visits Riverside regularly, though now he's treated like a hometown hero. Officer Derek Brennan completed his jail sentence in December 2025. He lost his law enforcement career, his reputation, and his pension. He's currently working in construction and living in a neighboring county, keeping a low profile. He has made no public statements about the incident. Chief Michael Patterson has been praised for his swift action and transparency. He used the Marcus Reed case as a catalyst for department-wide cultural change. Under his leadership, the Riverside Police Department has become a model for accountability and community policing. The Riverside Police Department has not had a single civil rights lawsuit filed against it since the reforms were implemented. Civilian complaints have decreased by 61%, and community trust surveys show a significant increase in confidence in local police. Patricia Holbrook, the woman who made the false 911 call, issued a public apology to Marcus Reed. She admitted that her assumptions were based on racial bias and has since become involved in community dialogue efforts to address implicit bias. If this story proves that accountability matters, do 3 things right now. First, smash that like button. Seriously, hit it right now. This story needs to be seen by millions. Second, subscribe to this channel for more stories of justice and accountability. We post real stories like this every single week, and you don't want to miss them. Third, share this video with someone who needs to see it. Share it with a veteran. Share it with someone who's been profiled. Share it with someone who believes in justice. And now, comment below. Do you think body cameras should be mandatory for all officers across the country? Should officers who violate civil rights be banned from law enforcement permanently? Let's have a real conversation in the comments. I read every single one. Closing reflection. Marcus Reed's story is about more than a bottle of water. It's not even really about one bad cop. It's about a system that, for too long, protected officers who abused their power.
It's about the countless people who've experienced what Marcus experienced, but didn't have a commanding officer to call, didn't have the resources to fight back, and whose stories never made the news. Marcus was lucky in one terrible way. His arrest was recorded. The body camera captured every moment of injustice, every dismissive word, every violation of his rights. That footage became undeniable proof. But how many people have been arrested, harassed, or worse without that proof? How many times has this happened when the camera wasn't rolling? How many communities have been telling these stories for decades, only to be ignored until video evidence finally forced the world to pay attention? Body cameras don't just protect citizens, they protect good officers too. They provide transparency, accountability, and truth.
The reforms that came from Marcus's case, the body camera mandates, the verification protocols, the early intervention systems, the independent oversight, these aren't radical ideas. They're common sense. They're what we should have been doing all along. Every person in this country deserves to be treated with dignity. It doesn't matter if you're a decorated war hero or a teenager buying candy. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a military uniform or a hoodie. Everyone deserves the benefit of the doubt. Everyone deserves respect. And when officers violate that sacred trust, there must be consequences. Real consequences. Not just paid leave, not just a transfer to another department, not just promises to do better. Officer Derek Brennan lost his career, faced criminal charges, and will never wear a badge again. That's accountability. The Riverside Police Department implemented comprehensive reforms. That's systemic change. Marcus Reed received justice and used his platform to advocate for others. That's leadership. And across Ohio, new laws now protect citizens from officers who abuse their power. That's progress. But the work isn't finished. This story happened in 2025, not 1965. We're still fighting for basic dignity and equal treatment under the law. We're still having conversations about implicit bias, racial profiling, and police accountability that we should have resolved generations ago. So what can you do? Pay attention. Speak up. Support organizations fighting for police reform. Vote for leaders who prioritize accountability. And if you ever witness injustice, record it, report it, and refuse to be silent. Marcus Reed served 15 years defending American freedoms. The least we can do is ensure those freedoms are protected here at home, for everyone, regardless of the color of their skin. This is your reminder to stay informed, stay aware, and always demand accountability. Until next time, keep fighting for justice.